Welcome to Life on Purpose, where we talk all things health, wellness, and living your life on your terms. I'm your host, Brandy Eilert. All right, welcome back to the Life on Purpose podcast, where today my guest is Anna. And Anna, I'm going to let you pronounce your last name. We just talked about this. I don't want to, mislead anybody in the wrong direction, but Anna is a psychologist, a certified wellness coach, and is the creator of Balanced by Anna. And today we're going to talk all things kind of body image and eating habits and kind of this psychology around, especially women's obsessions a little bit with our body and weight and all that. And it's something that I haven't really discussed a whole lot on this show. And so I'm really grateful for your time and kind of breaking this down for us. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on your show.
Absolutely. So I really like to kind of start from the beginning, your story and how you got here and how you came to do what you do working with women.
Yeah, so my story is kind of typical, I would say, in a way. It's just like it affects us in different form, even though we might have the same experience. So I was a very, skinny kid, athletic. And then I was like 14, 15. I gained quite a bit of weight. But I gained weight what I understood later on for various reasons. I just gained. So that was like the obvious transformation. And like the reaction was pretty bad from my immediate surroundings and then also like friends and family and so on. And so I kind of, I decided just like to lose this weight because one thing is that I really didn't feel comfortable because I was really like 10 plus kilos of like over my normal weight. Mm-hmm. But also I didn't really think what I was doing, or how sustainable that would be. I was like 16, 17. So I had just no idea what I was doing. And I would suffer probably for a decade of this emotional eating, chronic dieting, up and down, not severely up and down, but never quite being satisfied, like with the way I look, never feeling like I fit in, which played a big part on my self-esteem, my relationships, the way, I viewed myself. But I would say that my biggest problem was that I only focused myself on my physical, like my looks, right? I didn't go deep at all into what I was feeling and what kind of thinking I had about myself and my body. So I removed the whole mental, emotional aspect out of the equation. And I just focused like number on the scale, size of the jeans, like, let's do it, like this diet, that diet. And it's hard because, once again, I was missing this puzzle, this important puzzle, which is this emotional part. And so after trying so many diets, you really feel like a failure because you're like thinking like, what's wrong with me? I cannot lose this weight. I'm gaining weight again. It's not sustainable. I cannot live like this. Like it becomes an obsession, right? Like it becomes an obsession because normally losing weight is an equation. Like there is a science behind it, right? Like, right. How you can lose weight, right? But like maintaining this and being happy, that's a whole other story. So I would be able to lose, but then when I wanted to live my life, then I would go back to, gaining it back. I was miserable. And so, yeah. So then I went to school. I learned a lot in school, obviously, in both, in all my, learning curves kind of happened when I went to college. And then I just started a little bit more reading about that component of how your thoughts influence your behavior, how your emotions that are a product of your thoughts are influencing your behavior. And I realized that I have some serious patterns to change, and that I have to go with some serious beliefs and some acquired knowledge that I have learned as a kid about food and about my body. And so that's when I left my corporate job, I knew that I wanted to do this because I didn't have the adequate help. I was just thrown to a nutritionist office who would give me another meal plan. So yeah, I kind of said, okay, I will help women and emotional eating and figure out their emotions, and the weight loss will just be a byproduct, because once
Right.
you figure out the mental and emotional part, the physical kind of follows. So yeah, so that's where I am, and that's what I do.
And that's really an interesting piece, because I think when, women go into this idea of, I really want to change my body, I'm not happy with how I feel or how I look, usually their mind doesn't go to, okay, I need to dig into the emotional part of what's happening here. So
No,
there's
because
kind of this disconnect.
there is a disconnect, but also it's not to blame anyone, because a
Sure.
lot of us grew up, a lot of us actually grew up in an environment which was, for example, very controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot, or suppressing your emotions, like not speaking about your emotions. And I'm not even talking about emotions related to food. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just talking about emotions in general.
Right.
So if you don't have this habit of how I, tell my clients, like, you have this inner, dialogue, like you're talking to yourself, like, what's really going on, like, to actually say that sentence. If you haven't acquired this as something that you do often when you feel that something is off,
Yeah.
why would you think that, as a 30, 40-year-old woman, you would have the habit of doing the same? You don't. However, you did learn, you gained a bit, you should lose weight. You need
That's
to
really
lose the same.
interesting. Right.
You know what I
So
mean? Like what you have learned, you are just transforming it in a different way, but like, it's the
yeah.
same, it's a pattern. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I was raised in a family where being a little bit like overweight, or not even overweight, but just like gaining weight was like a sign of not taking care of yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I learned, right? But I didn't learn to figure out, why was I eating in the first place?
Yeah.
So, like, it took a lot of time, like, it took decades, but it took some time for me to understand that, like, there must be a reason if I'm eating when I'm not hungry.
No, absolutely. And do you feel like that's different for everybody? Like everybody's patterns um stem from something just a little bit different? I mean, is there kind of this overarching I guess reason that so many of us become so obsessed with our bodies and our images, and kind of going on this roller coaster of dieting and then binging and dieting and then binging and then dieting, and kind of this flux is
Yeah.
I mean, what do you see is happening here?
I mean, listen, like, this thing to look a certain way was always present.
Yeah.
The trend was different. I mean, the trend in the 60s and 70s was different. In the 80s and 90s, I mean, we know how women looked in the 90s,
Yeah.
and you could see them not maybe on social media, but I for sure saw them in a magazine, right?
Yeah.
And now you have social media, and again, something is changing. It is true that so you can take media as one channel, and only one channel of what is the expected look, and then everyone is kind of following that train and following these diets, and that this whole industry is literally playing on your emotions and on not being good enough. Like, you're not good enough if you don't look like this, you're not good enough if you don't eat this, you're not good enough or healthy enough if you don't do that. So, like, you're just following because you want to be good enough.
Right. I think, like you said, kind of going back, every generation kind of has this image of what the perfect body is, and it hasn't always been what it is now. If you can go back and back and back, and more voluptuous, larger women were what was in, as long as you're healthy and not, kind of morbidly obese, it was acceptable to, look thicker. And now we've kind of gone to this trend, and like you said, it's kind of in your face with social media and other forms of media on a daily basis of this is what you're supposed to look like. And what can that do to somebody's psyche if that's what you see every single day? And that's not attainable for you per se. Like, I am built very differently than, the next person. And my expectations have to be realistic in what my body can and cannot do.
Well, here's also another thing, is the way you perceive or the way a message is given is also very important.
Yeah.
So for example, if you talk to some, older people who are like 60, 70, whatever, their parents were not so preoccupied because they didn't get that message as well.
Yeah.
When our parents, like for example, my parents born in the 50s or whatever, late 40s, early 50s, that's already where there was a trend to look a little bit on the thinner side,
Yes.
But because they were never taught by their parents how to communicate sensitive topics, they would just come to you and say, lose the weight, you gained weight, not realizing maybe what kind of effect it does to you, but it's like, I'm doing this for your own good.
Sure.
So you have something which is a pattern in the family, what you have learned. And there were many women dieting in the 70s.
Sure. Yeah.
Our parents, like they were all dieting and smoking and doing whatever. So like you did see this and you were mirroring this later on, right? Like, oh, I will smoke, so I will lose weight. Like we didn't, this is something that we have seen somewhere, it's not on social media in the 80s.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So you can have patterns inside the family. You can have the way the information is communicated to you.
Right.
The problem nowadays is, okay, you're bombarded all the time, but you're also in a subtle way reminded that it's not okay to be even fuller. For example, if you travel, how big the seats are, every product is somehow implying that you yourself, it's almost convincing you that you want to be thinner, even if I don't want, even if I'm happy, you're constantly kind of getting this, these genes will make you look thinner.
Right.
Why do I need, it's the same, for example, like I was thinking about this, like a couple of days ago, like anti-aging products. What does it mean? Women don't have the right to age. Like if it's a very specific term, and we are constantly using it.
Right. As if it's some sort of horrible thing for us to age. And I actually did an episode on that exact topic of kind of this messaging around aging, but it's only geared towards women per se, and not necessarily men. Men can age, there's no products aimed at them, but, body size and aging is very much a woman's issue, it seems. I'm not going to completely generalize here, but men don't typically have to worry or feel like they have to worry so much about these things as much as women do. So the messaging is, coming at us from all directions, family, media, etc. So how then do you kind of tap into the psyche of that and unravel it all and kind of undo the harm that's already been done for somebody who has had to obsess about this for, a significant amount of time and kind of has this image of themselves that is less than because of their body?
It's a good question. I do have a program that kind of tackles your past, your present, and your mindset.
Yeah.
Because I think like it's a whole story,
Yes.
You have to figure out where the obsession comes from. Is it something real? Is it truthful? Is it something that you don't question anymore because it's engraved in you as an absolute truth? Like you have to be size this or size that. Who told you this?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we don't question these things. So first of all, there is a little bit of questioning your past beliefs and experiences and how this has shaped the way you feel about food and body in general.
Yeah.
Then you have to analyze the common patterns in your family and figure out what has been, going on. Like what were your parents saying about food, what you were told about food and your body and so on and so forth. Because this, for girls, start at a young age, and just like a small difference between boys and girls are always expected to improve the way they look. Boys are meant to be strong. So if a guy is losing weight, it's 90% of the time because it's a health issue. If a woman is losing weight, the statistics say it's 30% for weight, like the weight loss is 30% for health issues.
Yeah.
Everything else is to fit the mold of the society.
Yeah.
so that you will be accepted. So to come back. So again, like I'm doing a little bit more digging in the past. So anything with beliefs, traumas, different experiences that a person had, because it does shape you. Then we are doing something which is like stopping the diets. That's a big one. Stopping the diets and never stepping on the scale while you're on the program. And the reason why is because if you have been dieting for a very long time, you completely lost control over food. So what I mean by that is that like a diet tells you what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, etc. Right? You feel or you believe that you are in control because you're following a diet, but actually you are far off because you don't follow your signals like that your body is giving you. So if you're hungry and it's like 7 p.m. and you're not supposed to eat, you don't eat. But sometimes you're eating when you're not hungry. So you messed up your relationship with your own body because you're not listening what it's telling you.
Right.
So for me, the first step, you have to stop dieting. You're preparing balanced meals, but you're also having kind of conversation with yourself. What do I feel like eating? And what will be sustainable in the future? Because you can eat as many carrots and kale on a program, and then the program ends, and then you're like, oh, but I actually don't like kale. There is a very big chance you will never eat kale. So no dieting, no scale. And then one of the most important aspects of my program is changing the negative thoughts, sabotaging thoughts, and sabotaging thoughts about change, rewiring this, because these three are very different. They're super different, but these thoughts are driving certain emotions and then a behavior. To give you an example, if you say, you look yourself in the mirror and then you say, I'm a fat person. I'm very fat. The emotion that you usually feel behind it is not very positive. Like it's
not at all.
So, and then highly likely in 99.9% of the cases that day, there is a negative behavior coming out, which is usually binge eating.
So you tell yourself, you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I am overweight. And then you've created kind of this negativity around that and then feed it. You feed this negativity.
It's the same thing when you step on a scale. So let me, for your listeners, to give you another very popular example. If you step on a scale in the morning and you see, oh my God, I lost only 2 pounds. I expected 4, let's say. Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, I lost 2, but it's still 2. If you say, I only lost 2 pounds, I'm never going to lose all the weight that I need to lose. The emotion is very different. Like it's judgment, it's failure, it's shame, it's guilt. And then the behavior is like, I might as well just eat whatever the hell I want today because this is not going to happen for me.
So you've already decided that you're going to fail. Therefore, you kind of self-sabotage.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying like you need to kind of see what are the negative thoughts that are happening. And there are so many types of negative thoughts that a person can have. And they all influence in a different way.
Yeah.
And then you have these sabotaging thoughts. And then you have, for example, a resistance to change. Like, I have always been a fast eater. But like, if you say, okay, but fast eating probably is the reason why I eat, so much mindlessly. Yeah. That's a different way of saying, okay, maybe I can change this. So the resistance to change is another trick that people can work on. I don't have the time. I don't want to write anything down. There is a resistance. Sure. And when you ask people, why is there a resistance? There is usually, shame and guilt and fear of failure, inadequacy, abandonment from others, being criticized by others. Like, why are you now trying to improve something? So it's when I work with clients, it's a big package. Like it's different components, different pillars, because ending this cycle of binge eating, dieting, emotional eating, it's not focused in the present on food. Like when you have a food problem, you actually don't have a food problem. You have an emotional problem.
Right. And I think that's really important for people to realize. And like I said, from the very beginning, getting somebody to understand that this maybe is something much deeper. It may be more difficult to wrap your mind around than the idea of staying kind of on this cycle of dieting, because as difficult as that may be, kind of being on this roller coaster of
it's easier than thinking. It's easier than thinking of your life.
So I mean, the emotional toll, or kind of the the digging deeper, how do you prepare your clients for that? I mean, up front, are you just like, listen, this is going to be different than anything you've ever done before?
I think that most of my clients, they come really in a stage of despair because they have been dieting for decades. It's not working. Everything that you have been reading about, like, for example, ending this kind of cycle of emotional eating or binge eating, we're always told, like, be disciplined, follow a diet, remove trigger foods from the house, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in it because I don't think it works. Otherwise, no one would have an issue because everyone would be able to follow a diet and everyone would be happy and this industry would have disappeared a long time ago.
Right. Nobody would need you.
Exactly. No one would need me. I think that people realize at some point, like, there must be something else, because if I tell them, if you're not hungry, then food is not a solution, then they're like, oh my God, then why do I eat so much? Like, they themselves realize that, like, there is something going on. But it's kind of difficult for you to maybe, I mean, for some people have done the work.
Yeah.
And they know what happened. They just don't know what to do with it. That's also very common. Like, they know that when I was growing up, like, my mom was always on a diet and she told me, in order for you to find a husband, you should look like this. So now I'm 35 without a husband because I don't look like that.
And I failed.
Therefore, I need to be on a diet to find a husband. Do you know what I mean? So it's
a really interesting conversation that's being had in your own mind that you don't even realize how damaging it is. The idea that we tell ourselves such awful things about ourselves and we don't even realize that we're doing it.
That's because these things are acquired, like, throughout the years. People that you're, surrounded with, like, but especially like family in the beginning, in the early kind of, development years. I'm talking about girls now specifically. Sure. When your body is starting to change, that's such a delicate period.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, kids are put on a diet at the age of 7. You're sending already there a message which is bad. Mm-hmm. You think you're doing them something good, but there are different ways of approaching this topic. But when puberty hits, or a little bit like preteen years, and your body starts to change, from a very young girl to a young woman, and so on, no one explains you that this is a normal thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one tells you what to expect in terms of body changes.
Right.
So when people are like, oh, your body has changed, instead of this being a normal thing, you're like, oh my God, I'm flawed.
Like, please don't look at me.
I mean, you try to have a body of a 15-year-old and you're a 25-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You want to weigh the same like you did in high school, this kind of thing. So,
and that's an interesting topic. I have had a client in the past that we kind of discovered through our work together that the image that she had of herself was of holding on to this 20-year-old in a 45-year-old's body. Yeah. We talked about things that she could do to incorporate and all, just balancing, making sure, and very much kind of what you were talking about, making sure you're eating intuitively, whole foods, and just very, very simple things. But we kind of discovered, she's Italian and she loves the Sundays at her Italian families with the pastas and the wine and all of that. And it was more important to her to live happy and in these social settings than restricting any kind of food like that. And it was this realization that I really don't really want that body. I think I do. And society tells me that's what I should want. I don't really want that. And it was this kind of really interesting transformation of asking yourself, is this really what I want? And I'm not sure that everybody who kind of goes through these cycles can ask themselves that question and come to that same realization and be okay with it. I would rather be happy living this kind of lifestyle than going on a Sunday to my family's at big Italian dinners and saying, I'm sorry, I can't partake.
Well, one huge part of the program that I'm doing is asking that will guide you through the program is that I want to know from my clients what is their why.
Sure.
Why they're doing this. And this is where you actually, the why in the sense of a deeper connection to why they want to change.
Yeah.
Because superficially, you want to change for, a wedding, an event, a bikini season, fitting in the jeans, and so on. But those are events that will pass. So you cannot hold on to this why, because then when the event passes, then, but that's where people actually realize that, like, okay, maybe it's not the weight loss that I'm after.
Sure. It's the happiness.
It's something else. It's energy, it's better health, it's getting off medications, it's better sleep, whatever it is.
And what's interesting is, like you said at the beginning, once you kind of get through those, then you actually do see weight loss.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, that you're eating all this extra calories for all the reasons but hunger. That is like, this is going to be a byproduct of you eating less because you're not obsessed about food. And the reason why you're not obsessed about food is because you're not restricting food.
Mm-hmm.
Like dieting makes you go crazy. I'm not talking about people who are competing on a,
oh, sure,
show, and then they kind of have the discipline because this is their job, or you're an actress and you're paid to look a certain way. So you kind of endure the diet. Talking about regular people who cannot sustain this in the long haul. So the moment that this diet ends, or they reach this, end goal, whatever it is, and they go back to like normal eating, it's a disaster. And then what you do, you go back to that or another diet because short term it will work.
Right.
And that's how the industry works. But it's the diet that's always failing you. You're not failing the diet. You're not supposed to be living like that. Like you're supposed to make, let's say, for the most part, healthy choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're at peace with what you ate. Because also keep in mind, some people eat super healthy.
Yeah.
Super healthy, but they don't actually eat what gives them pleasure. And they also binge.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different dynamics.
Or whatever, like they're eating all the smoothies and all the spinaches and salads, but they really want a slice of pizza every once in a while. And so there is a fine line what it means to eat in an intuitive way.
Well, let's dive into that then. Let's kind of dive into the intuitive eating. How do you explain that to clients, and how do you get that incorporated into their day-to-day?
When I tell them to stop dieting, I tell them in the beginning, I want you to make 3 preferably balanced meals. I really don't care what it is.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just want you to make meals. 1, I want you to make the choice for once.
Mm-hmm.
2, I want you to feel real hunger.
Right.
So you don't snack and graze throughout the day, but realize what it is. And then when you're eating without distractions, tell me what you're feeling about the food that you're eating. If this food is boring and tasteless, please don't make it anymore. Yeah. Because that's not intuitive eating. Like intuitive eating is like you say, oh my God, I feel like eating salmon tonight.
Yeah.
It's not a diet food, it's just food. I mean, diet took it over as their food, but it's just food. So for me, you cannot possibly start to eat intuitively on any diet plan. No. Sure. Even if people tell you like, choose between these 3. No, I'm not going to choose. I'm going to feel what I want to feel. Like, what do I like to eat? Yeah. Is it morning a shake or eggs or bread or oatmeal or whatever? Are my preferences changing throughout the month, So,
right. With your cycle, I mean, and that kind of
cycle, everything changes for sure. And also even if we're eating the same foods, we don't react the same way. Yeah. Some prefer more protein, less protein, more carbs, less carbs, more this, more that, animal, plant, whatever. It's what feels good to you. So you're eating, you kind of understand, okay, now I'm full and I don't need any more. And then I will really feel the hunger slowly coming up after, 3-4 hours, and then I will eat again.
Do you find that people have a hard time trusting themselves at the beginning of this?
Of course, because they think that they will only binge on foods that they have forbidden themselves for decades.
Right. Like the psychology around the things that you've told yourself about certain foods, and then maybe you reintroduce them. I imagine that that's kind of just this.
I mean, it's a shock because people label foods and then they label themselves.
Right.
So like, you know, if I'm eating good foods, I'm a good person. If I'm eating bad foods, I'm a bad person and I'm not worthy, and all these kind of things. And again, labeling yourself can be very dangerous because the behavior can be very negative later on. But in the beginning, I tell them what to experience in the beginning, what will happen, because it happens every single time.
Yeah.
Yes, for a week, you will eat a lot of, not in quantities, but you will introduce way more foods that were, you know, forbidden, or whatever you were calling them, cheat foods, bad foods, guilty pleasure. I hate that word, by the way. Guilty pleasure.
We'll stay away from that one.
But then these foods slowly lose their appeal because you know you can have them.
Right. And I think, you know, if especially if someone has kind of been on this roller coaster of dieting for so long, that has to feel almost like you're losing control. Because like you said, you know, when people commit to a diet, a quote unquote diet, you feel like you're in control. But I don't really think that we were meant to live like that. Like you said, we have forgotten how to eat intuitively. And, you know, we've been sold this bill of goods on certain foods that are good or bad or whatever. And rewiring that thinking has to take some time. And there has to be a period of feeling like you are no longer in control of this anymore. And, absolutely, you know, getting through that stage, like, where do you find that they're kind of get over the hump and really start to embrace this new way of looking at food?
I think the moment they realize that if they eat what they want and their weight doesn't change, then they're good. Because you want to feel good in your body. Sure. You know, like, there is no shame in that. You want to feel healthy, you want to feel good, you want to carry yourself in a way that's comfortable for you. So if in the beginning you're like, I feel a little bit sluggish, and, you know, I ate some foods that normally I don't eat, but it's okay, I enjoyed some of it. You will know what these foods actually produce in you. But the moment you kind of slowly start eating regular healthy foods that are give you energy, and you see that your weight is not going up and down practically at all, that's when people slowly start to calm down.
So it's a process of getting to know your body, what works for you and what doesn't. Yeah.
I went through a lot of different eating styles in my, let's say, recovery. I was this, I was that, until I found some formula that works well for me. So I encourage them to experiment with everything and different types of foods. And
that's so important. Right. And that's so important. I don't think you can overstate that, is that there is no one size fits all when it comes to eating, period. End of story. Like, subscribing to one diet and saying everybody can do well on this diet, it's good for everybody, is complete crap. It's garbage.
I mean, every diet works well in the beginning, because if you were eating, like, you know, what we call the standard American diet, every other diet will work.
Right.
every single one. So it's not like rocket science, you know. But I think people are just afraid to experiment. They don't trust themselves. So the process is why I say I don't want to see a diet plan. I'm not going to give you one. Right. You know, like, but you can kind of mark down, like, oh, okay, this food felt good, didn't feel good, my digestion was off, it wasn't off, I slept well, I didn't sleep well, so on and so forth. There is like a small questionnaire that they can kind of fill in, keep in check. But but that's also another thing, is that, like, when you start eating like that, you can say, okay, today maybe I'm not hungry for breakfast. So what? You don't have the rule anymore. Oh, it's breakfast time, because that's what the diet will tell you. Or like, you feel like you might want to eat pancakes out of the blue because you just want them.
Yeah.
And it's not going to ruin any progress. Whereas when you're on a diet and you break your diet, you're going to binge for 4 days.
Now, how do you get people to understand that this is kind of a process and this is what's happening? This is you getting to know your body and you getting to really know the foods that work for you. And it's not going to happen overnight, because I think we all expect kind of this just rapid you know, if it's going to work for me, it's going to work right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm honest.
Hey, listen, I appreciate that.
I'm honest in the beginning that that I can make this work way faster for you than, because the program is very clear from week to week what we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
But so the results are fast in a way, of course, like it depends, you know, how deep your problems are and so on.
Sure.
But you have to do the work. So if I tell you don't diet, then please don't diet. If I tell you don't weigh yourself for 2 weeks, just don't do it. You know, if I ask you, can you please experiment with some new foods and let's see what happens? If I tell you, you know, incorporate something sweet, please don't, like, you know, remove sweets, because then really you will binge when your cycle comes.
Right.
People want to listen. I don't have, you know, experienced so much any kind of resistance.
Pushback.
It's more of a shock in the beginning. Like
kind of that loss of control.
There are people who wake up and like, I don't know what to eat. No.
Yeah, because you know, and that's such an important point too, because you've been told what to do, you know, by following these diets, and it's just kind of mindlessly, okay, I got to do this and this and this, and it's like checking some boxes. And really, you have to be very involved in your own healing process, and I think that's very mentally difficult for people. And you're right, they have to kind of be prepared going into it that yes, this is going to be more difficult than just following a diet.
It is also because, for example, I have clients now who they were depriving themselves of certain foods, and then they would eat, and what they would realize is that there are certain foods that were forbidden, you know, when they were growing up. So that brings a lot of emotions. Because, you know, mom was only cooking or baking this on a certain time, and I was not allowed to eat it because this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
They're afraid to overeat as a sign of rebellion against these rules that were suffocating them even back then. So there is a lot kind of these triggers that you can navigate. But I think if you follow a plan of wanting to dig deeper and changing the mindset, but that also means digging deep in your mind, like what's going on.
Right, sure.
The good thing is that you can rewire the way you think, like, you know, because if you were repeating one thing for, you know, a certain period of time, now you have to start doing something else. It will come along. And every day you just kind of repeat something that serves you, actually, because everything that you have done so far, you didn't even know that it was not serving you. You were not questioning it. You were taking as the absolute truth.
Yeah. And that has to be really hard to accept sometimes. Wow. I've been lying to myself for so long.
Yeah, especially if it comes from your family, then it's really hard.
It can be very hurtful. Yeah. I imagine that process is very kind of enlightening, but also hurtful in a way, that you've been betrayed a little bit, and especially by somebody that you love and care about and respect. So one thing that we really haven't touched on is kind of this physiological component of weight gain. And that's kind of the hormonal aspect that women kind of go through, and the body changes. And especially someone like my age, you know, upward, you know, going towards 40 and middle age, and seeing your body change, not necessarily weight gain, but just change. Like how are we to accept those kinds of changes? And not start to develop these habits that, like me, for instance, I've been very fortunate. I haven't really, weight and all of that was not really a thing in my family. I don't even own a scale, strangely enough. The only time I know how much I weigh is if I go to the doctor. So that's not something, but something I've noticed about myself on a personal note is, you know, I'm a year away from 40 and notice body changes. You know, my clothes fit differently. I don't necessarily think that weight has changed, but my body's definitely different. So how can we accept kind of these changes like that come with age and hormones and things like that?
I think, again, there are two big parts that are like so complicated to
Yeah.
tackle in my program. One is awareness and the other one is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Because accepting doesn't mean that you necessarily need to love your body.
Yeah.
You need to accept it and not work against it.
Right.
That's a huge one for people.
And that's important because I feel like, you know, so many women that I've talked to feel like they are in a battle with themselves constantly. Yes. They are just fighting with themselves, and it's exhausting.
Stressing hormones, and that's stressing your hormones, and that's why you're constantly in this flight or fight mode.
Right.
Stressing your cortisol, stressing your adrenals, and then you're like, oh, my hormones are out of whack. You know, like there are so many people who are saying that their hormones are like in an imbalance. That's actually not true.
Yeah.
I mean, like every other person says this. It's impossible.
Yeah.
We are more balanced than imbalanced when it comes to hormones.
Yeah.
Are there changes? Yes, but not like how we perceive. It's how you perceive things.
Mm-hmm.
How you perceive that this change is so bad.
Right.
Now I'm going to do everything to erase it and go back to where I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So acceptance is one part of one of these, modules that I have. Like wherever you're starting from, doesn't matter if you're changing something or just accepting it. But right. if you're 40 and you notice some things, you're like, okay, what is the best thing that I can do for myself, given with what I have right now? Mm-hmm. And be honest with yourself, how your relationship with food and your body has been lately.
Right.
Because, that's like a starting point. And where do you want to go? And let's now do the best we can. Right. Just don't work against it. Accepting your body is having a neutral relationship to your body. It's just a body. Mm-hmm. It's not always positive. It's not always negative, because we all have different, days. Even if your weight is not changing,
right?
You perceive your body in a different way. So it's the only thing that people need to understand is like, if you try to work against it, then it's gonna pop, into your hormones.
It's gonna fight back.
I mean, then you're entering like in this endless battle.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think I'm a woman's woman. I really love working with women because throughout this process, I noticed that women start to understand that like they didn't lose something necessarily, but they gained something else.
Yeah.
Like something comes with a woman's body when they are pregnant, post-pregnancy, that can be beautiful if you want to see it.
Right.
Like you can take the concept of curves and bash them, or you can embrace them. So that's something that I always like for them to, because there are some exercises that we do in the mirror, and then they kind of have to notice what they like and things like that. And because they have been conditioned to only see the flaws, they don't see anything that they like. But if you ask them, okay, what do you like? Then you take this as, the starting point, and then you develop on it.
Right.
It's possible. It's just that like, what I was saying is that our thoughts and the way we kind of process things, it's always negative. I lost only 5 pounds. If I could only have one less wrinkle, if I, it's never like, okay, but I don't have 15 wrinkles. I have 5. No, it's like, I don't want 5. I want 2. We are never in this positive mindset that where you're creating the ground of accepting like that it's not bad. Right. It's just how it is, and I can improve on it. And I think for many, this is also, like also not maybe such a shock, but it's just difficult to rewire yourself.
Uncomfortable.
Like
I'm sure it has to be uncomfortable.
But it's possible. But it's definitely possible.
So let me ask you this. Would you then recommend if say someone is pregnant and they're getting ready to give birth to a daughter, how do you prevent this from happening to that little girl?
Sometimes I wonder if it's easier for a mom who had this kind of issues or didn't have this kind of issues. Okay, that's another topic. Let's say that if she has been through some of these things, I always said if I had a daughter, I would only focus on her health.
Right.
I would not mention the looks on her face or on her body, like in the sense of it's not complicated for a child to understand that there are foods that nourish you, and that foods that are just like less nourishing. but still food, not good,
Right.
not bad. Don't use these words.
Right.
In this phase where they might, kind of understand them the wrong way. So that like, I'm a bad boy or a bad girl because I'm eating this. So, and I think that what we were talking about this, teenage years, and I think it's very important to kind of explain to your daughter that whatever is happening is actually natural.
Yeah.
Like, we were never told this. So then you are noticing that your body is changing, you're confused, and then people are pinpointing that, like,
Well,
have
and you
changed.
weren't supposed to talk about it.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Like we've kind of been conditioned not to bring it up. Like if you have questions about what's happening to your body, you're not supposed to ask.
Yeah.
Kind of this.
Even nowadays, I mean, pregnant women all over the place, they don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Just don't, like, there is a shame about it. So I think, talking with your daughter, like, listen, okay, now there is something happening. It's all hormones. There is a period. It's for this, it's for that. You can explain this on a level where the, young person can understand, and not be afraid of the change.
Right. And
Because
it's kind of, I think it's kind of empowering when you understand what your body's doing, when you understand how things work, how food works, how, your hormones and the changes and everything works, then it's a little bit more empowering and you feel less out of control with it.
Absolutely. I mean, if you explain to someone, this is the role of your hormones, this is the role of the period, this is the role of, and also like explaining that, like, because you are changing, you are growing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, embrace, like, now you're older and this is just a new phase and life is full of phases. So I think, but that also goes for boys, because I mean, we tend to kind of, I think that previous generations had it a little bit easier, I would say. But I think that young boys now are really also bombarded with images of this perfect, male body, more and more. So I think that the same goes for them. You can be strong, but you don't have to be, that strong. It's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to pump yourself with some pills and spend all your time in the gym. You don't have to go overboard. So I think, but definitely open the discussion. And if you have some issues, just try to minimize talking about them, in front of your kids, commenting on anyone else's weight. Because, for example, that one is so triggering for many people. Like, my mom never told me anything, but she was always talking about someone else.
And like, that's important too, because I think it's easy for you to take that label and apply it to yourself. If, mom makes a comment about this person, I'm kind of built like that person. How must she feel about me?
Absolutely. Right. That's difficult with parents, because parents are people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, no matter what. Yeah. So if they are making comments and you're like, oh my God, but I look the same, that means that they will change maybe the way they feel about me. And you don't want that because they are everything to you. Then you start that's my example. Yeah. Okay. My parents were telling me to lose weight and I was petrified as a 14-year-old. Yeah. If I didn't look a certain way, like up to their expectations. So my pattern was the conditional one, like you're accepted if you look a certain way. Yeah. I was petrified. So then I said, like, I will do everything for them to accept me. And then, when I faced my parents, like 25 years later, they had, first of all, no clue what they were saying. But they also said, oh, but we thought that you didn't want to look like that. So we were encouraging you to.
So there's this kind of big miscommunication where you both didn't realize what was, kind of what was happening.
The damage was done. And that's why I encourage people to talk to your kids, open up. But also, on the other hand, don't make a big fuss about it. If it doesn't have to be your body and the way you look and how much and of what you eat. It shouldn't be the center of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many other things to talk about, and
it's all such great advice. And like I said, that's kind of why I wanted to kind of get that question in right at the end, is that, it does kind of start from the very beginning. and making sure that we as parents are doing our best to kind of make this about health and not image, and not about a certain size, and kind of focus on, how can you be healthy emotionally, physically, etc. So Anna, how can people find you and your program and come to work with you?
They can reach out. I think the best way is like they can reach out on my website, Balance by Anna. I would encourage them to go to Facebook, where is my page.
Okay.
They can join my group for free.
Fantastic.
Which is called And Emotional Eating Find Food Freedom. And in this group, we really talk about different topics, and they can DM and ask questions. And I think that's like where we share quite a bit of experience in a safe place.
Yeah.
So I think And Emotional Eating Find Food Freedom on Facebook is the way to go.
Okay. Well, I will add all of that to the show notes. And again, I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's so important, and you're doing great work. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.